So apparently Shohei Ohtani is being limited by the Angels and their manager Phil Nevin, but then Shohei Ohtani came out and kind of defended himself saying, this is news to me. And also in the same conversation, Julio Urias of the Dodgers, he's also going to have his innings monitored by his actual major league team. So those are things that we have to talk about today. Manny Machado and Team DR, they went off yesterday. DR almost threw a no-hitter. And then also, I just want to talk about Jared Walsh today, the Angels first baseman. He's looking healthy again. Before we get into all of the WBC news, I do want to show this home run from Gavin Cross. He was the 9th overall pick just a year ago in 2022. He is the #1 overall prospect for the Royals. I fully believe that the Royals can be a contender over the next few years. If Asa Lacy, one of their better pitching prospects, if he can be a dominant pitcher, maybe even Frank Mazzucato, he's another lefty. If the Royals can find some pitching, they're going to be good here pretty soon. But also, I have to roll that Gavin Cross home run one more time because just seeing it doesn't do it justice. Listen to this home run.
Yeah, finished with 7 home runs, 22 RBIs. That ball is hit a ton.
As a Guardians fan, let me just say I am terrified of the future of Gavin Cross on the Royals and Oscar Colas on the White Sox. Those two guys, they rake. Speaking of raking, Ozzie Albies has been known to rake every so often, but then again, Ozzie Albies might be the most overrated player in baseball according to a lot of people. I still believe that Ozzie Albies is a very good second baseman, a productive second baseman, great defense. He can also have some pop every so often. I've said this before, but he's the only second baseman in Major League Baseball history to have multiple seasons of 40 doubles and 20 home runs before turning 25 years old, as he just hit his second home run of spring training. So let me know in the comments down below, who do you think is the most overrated player in baseball? Is it Ozzie Albies or is it someone else? I'm actually curious who you guys think it is. I actually saw the name Jared Walsh in a lot of overrated conversations because he did not look good last year, and that was in large part because he only had one working shoulder. He had surgery. It was called thoracic outlet syndrome. Basically, it's what happens when you get the yips where your shoulder just kind of stops working, but he had that corrected. He had 15 home runs last year, even though he basically only had that one working shoulder. And then I do also want to throw in Brandon Drury. He popped off for another home run in spring. I don't know about you guys, but if the pitching holds up, I'm talking about Shohei Ohtani. I don't have any questions about him. The way that Patrick Sandoval looked against Team USA and his buddy Mike Trout, no questions about him. And even Jose Suarez, I like him, but Tyler Anderson, is he going to be able to perform like he did in 2022 with the Dodgers? What about Chase Silseth? There are a lot of questions about the back end of the Angels rotation, but if we're talking about their offense, I have no questions. They're going to be really good. JD Davis could end up being one of the most important players in the NL West because he's super underrated in my opinion. Yu Darvish once said that he is the toughest out in all of Major League Baseball. He ripped a 3-run tater, and I bring this up because he could be the key to the Giants shocking everyone and making a playoff push. Last season when he was traded from the Mets to the Giants in 49 games in San Francisco, he had 8 home runs and a 140 OPS plus. He's top 5% in average exit velocity, and he's top 1% in hard hit percentage. So anytime he puts the ball in play, which is kind of infrequent considering he strikes out nearly 30% of the time, but when he does put the ball in play, he basically deletes the baseball from existence. Again, he smashes them, and I'm excited to see him play 140 to 150 games because if he can be prime JD Davis with the 130, 135 OPS plus, you factor in Michael Conforto, who is raking. They do have Mitch Haniger. Maybe the Giants can shock the world and make a playoff push. From one of the hardest hitting batters to one of the hardest throwing pitchers, Hunter Greene, he struck out 7 Royals yesterday. I don't know if you guys remember, but last season in one single game, he threw 100 miles an hour 38 times. I can't even really put that into perspective of how hard that is to do. Jacob deGrom, he's probably the only starting pitcher in baseball that can even match that, but 38 times in one single game, 100 or more miles an hour. Again, he struck out 7 yesterday. I am so excited to see what Hunter Greene can do in his sophomore season. Before we talk about the WBC games from yesterday, I do want to talk about the idea that Shohei Ohtani and Julio Urias, they could be pitching in their final game here pretty soon because Japan is facing off against Italy in the semifinals. And apparently, manager of the Angels, Phil Nevin, came out and said that that is going to be the final game that Shohei pitches because they need Shohei for a game on the 25th or something like that. But Shohei came out and said, that's news to me. If they make the finals, I would have a hard time as Shohei Ohtani saying, yeah, I'm going to go ahead and sit this one out, possibly the biggest game in my country's baseball history. You're telling me that I cannot pitch in that game? I don't think Ohtani is going to be down for that, although it does make sense. A lot of Dodgers fans are kind of thanking Team Mexico for saving Julio Urias and his bullets. Again, he does have a full 2023 MLB Season 2 pitch. The Dodgers, they're going to really need Urias because he's probably their best pitcher going into 2023. So let me know in the comments down below, what do you make of Ohtani and Urias basically on innings restrictions that they get one more start and that is it. To be honest with you guys, I don't really understand the problem because it's not like Ohtani's going to throw 120 pitches. Every single WC pitcher already has a pitch limit of 65 pitches, so he's not going to go out and empty the tank. He's basically going to be a long reliever masquerading as a starter. Again, 65 pitches, that's not a lot. All right, the WBC games from yesterday, Cuba faced off against Australia, and Yoelqis Gieber, I hope I said that right, he singled in 2 massive runs to make it a 4 spot for Cuba. That was huge as Australia, they made it a 1-run game, but 6'4" closer. He looks like he's 6'8". The guy's massive. Rydell Martinez, he came in and he saved it for Cuba as they win 4-3. Team Venezuela, they won yesterday. Andres, he tied it at 1 run apiece, and Eugenio Suarez as well as Anthony Santander, they delivered the final 3 RBIs as Venezuela. They have really yet to break a sweat in this tournament. Their pitching is a problem. They have a 2.33 ERA as a team through their 3-0 start. Moving on to Canada, they beat Colombia despite losing Freddie Freeman. I don't think that he's actually injured, but it's more of a precaution. He had a hamstring issue. Starting pitcher Noah Skirrow, he went 5. He looked completely nasty. 5 strikeouts on 2 hits allowed. You have Bo Naylor. He grabbed an RBI base hit on what would have broken my controller if that happened to me in MLB The Show. Like if I was pitching, I'm snapping everything. Owen Cassie and Otto Lopez, they put the finishing touches on a huge comeback dub after they got smoked by Team USA. Canada is 2-1. Team Dominican Republic, they had a nice tune-up game. It was basically a warm-up game. No offense to Israel, but I mean, I don't know what else to call it because this was one of the easiest games of the tournament. Eloy, Manny, and company, they feasted on the Israeli pitching staff. J-Rod, he later drove home 2 on a double, and Gene, the hit machine, Gene Segura, he walked it off on a 2-run double to force a run rule. That pitching staff only allowed 1 hit over 7 innings. So now you're going to have Team DR facing off against Team Puerto Rico later on today. It is basically a must-win game, and I'll be watching every single pitch of that. Now, last but not least, Great Britain versus Mexico. Catcher Alexis Wilson was all of Mexico's offense yesterday, helping out his battery mate Taijuan Walker. Taijuan was out of his mind yesterday. He was throwing harder than ever, 97, 98 miles an hour. He had 1 hit over 4 innings. He had 8 strikeouts over those 4 frames. Wilson, he delivers with the 2nd RBI as Mexico, they escape with a 2-1 victory to knock out Great Britain. And then before you guys go, I have to show you this. I've never seen a more childlike dive in my entire existence. This is like you're in your upstairs loft with your younger or older brother or sister, and you're just pretending to dive on the couch. There was no need to dive. Like this play right here from Stephen Kwan, yeah, he has to go full extension to make that play. I understand that. Even something that isn't as severe, oh, there's Stephen again, but Riley Greene kind of stutters. He has to dive, but yeah, that play from Ben Gamel in left field, this is straight out of the playbook from my childhood when my brother and I were just pretending to dive on the couch. There was no reason to do that. Guys, that does it for today's recap. Thank you all so much for watching. If you learned something or enjoyed, leave a like and subscribe. Use code Fuzzy on SeatGeek to save yourself $20 off any baseball games. And also, if you're bored, check out this video.